Tonight, Cross River State government calls on Labour to seek solid promises to address issues of concern. Independent National Electoral Commission distributes sensitive electoral materials in Oka. Plus, residents lament indiscriminate dumping of refuse on streets in Calabar. A very good evening to you and thank you for joining us on the news tonight. I am Achibong Basi. Cross River State Governor Professor Bain Ayadi has assured Nigerians that despite the delay occasioned by the environmental impact assessment and the COVID-19 pandemic, a reasonable part of the superhighway project will be completed before its tenure comes to an end. Paul Abel reports.
The superhighway is one of the key signature projects of the Governor Ayadi administration, geared towards connecting northern Nigeria with the Atlantic Ocean to allow for evacuation of finished products.
The income of Cross River State cannot achieve the superhighway, but when you inject in the intellectual money, which has infinite transposition, is illimitable. 6-lane superhighway, that concept, which is held back by 2 years by COVID-19, held back by another 3 years by a court issue between Cross River State government and the federal government over the issues of EIA. But I'm happy to announce that in spite of the 5 years delay, Cross River State is moving fast on the superhighway to deliver a reasonable component of it. I hope that my engagement with Mr. President will also make him realize the importance of this superhighway.
The governor is also optimistic that the West Africa Construction and Fabrication Academy will reduce unemployment and an overflow of youths into politics.
Where your certificate can feed you, let your handiwork feed you. That's why we set up the Construction and Fabrication Academy. And by extension, we are bringing all of those young men in the Construction and Fabrication Academy into highway construction. Some of them are into landscaping, some of them are into plumbing, some of them are into air conditioning and refrigeration, some of them into HVAC, which is heating, ventilation, air conditioning and cooling systems. The superhighway, which is a project of the Cross River State people and government, will absorb all the products of the Construction and Fabrication Academy.
The governor also says that low-income earners must be trained to acquire skills and be comfortable if crime must be reduced in the society. In Calabar, Paul Abel, Nta News.
It seems lights may soon appear at the end of the tunnel if the pronouncement of the Cross River State Governor during his 2022 budget presentation is fully implemented concerning the ongoing labour strike, where he promised to address the gratuity of retired civil servants, which is one of the major demands for the industrial action. Paul Abel again has the details.
Among many several demands by the organized labor in Cross River State for embarking on strike are the payment of gratuities and implementation of promotion arrears. With the persistent strike, the pronouncement by the state governor is likely to pacify labor to rescind its stand on the strike.
It is intended to ensure that we guarantee salary payment and commitment to pension. We are also going to present in the next Executive Council a request seeking the authorization of the ESCO to provide a sinking fund for the payment of gratuity. So a minimum of 30 to 50 million naira from our budget will be set aside monthly and committed to the sinking fund so that every 2-3 months we'll be able to make a payment out of gratuity. It's a decision that has already been taken from my point of view, getting the ESCO expert and seeking the House final approval so that we can place an ISPO, which is an irrevocable standing payment order against our expected inflow so that our people who have retired do not suffer in vain.
How does the Cross River State House of Assembly intends to support the governor towards addressing the demands of labor?
A few days ago, I had a meeting with labor, and he just answered most of the questions that labor put forward. So for me, I'm happy. As a Cross Riverian, I'll be so proud because it's in Cross River. The strike is not about salary. The strike is about gratuity and pensions and deductions that are not being remitted. But he has just answered the question, so I'm so happy. I feel the result of my interface with His Excellency has paid off.
There are expectations that government will take immediate action to make labor call off the strike for the economic progress of the state. In Calabar, Paul Abel, Nta News.
And in Anambra State, stakeholders have inspected INEC sensitive materials under the supervision of INEC National Commissioner and Chairman, Information and Voter Education Committee, Festus Okoye at the Central Bank, Oka. Nta Calabar completes the report.
To come and witness the unveiling of these materials and their movement from here to all the local governments. So what we have done is that we have clustered the non-sensitive materials in terms of local governments. The farthest local governments are going to leave first, and then thereafter we take the other contiguous local governments before we get to the local governments that are contiguous to the state capital. So those materials are going to be the last ones that we leave. So all the sensitive materials are here. The bimodal voter accreditation system has also been loaded in the vehicles, but because it's bulky, it's not here. But all of them are going to leave under security to the very 21 local government areas of Anambra State.
Can you briefly summarize the material that are?
In a related development, NTA Yenegua Chapel has produced State Chairman, Nigeria Union of Journalists, NUJ, for a second tenure. Comrade Samuel Numonengi pulled 241 votes in the keenly contested election held 3rd November to be re-elected to pilot the affairs of the Bayelsa State Council. Edidio Iba reports.
This signaled the commencement of another 3-year tenure of the NUJ Bayelsa State Council. With members' welfare at the thrust of his administration, Comrade Samuel Numonengi promised that the next 3 years will usher in a robust interface between the union, the government and other development agencies for the growth of the entire state.
Those who are politicians should come and learn from us. It's a victory for democracy. We say we are agenda setters, and we have said the agenda once again. Peaceful elections, the people decided on who they want. They've chosen, but for me, I think NUJ is about to witness the best.
South Zonal Vice President of the Union, Comrade Opaka Dokubo, who commended the peaceful conduct of the election, emphasized the need for the newly elected executives to be all-embracing and continue to tour the path of peace.
From the very beginning to the end, I think they showed that they were interested in peace, that they were more than interested in deciding who becomes their leader by themselves without let or hindrance.
Outcome of the election is the will of the members of the NUJ in Bayelsa State, and we give God the glory for it.
Judith Young defeated Tonye Yemolea to clinch the vice chairman seat. Other members of the executive are Ogio Ipigasi as secretary, Joy Ifidi treasurer, Beatrice Okatubo auditor, and Mike Taeshe is the financial secretary. In Yenagua, Edidio Iba, NTA News.
Meanwhile, the fact that Nigeria is not included in the index of nations with impunity for crimes against journalists, as reported by the Committee to Protect Journalists, is a clear indication that the country remains a top media-friendly nation in the world. Minister of Justice and Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, said this at a policy dialogue on protection of journalists in Abuja. Adebola Brosley Sunday reports.
Between 2006 and the year 2020, more than 1,200 journalists have been killed globally for reporting the news and bringing information to the public, as documented by the Committee to Protect Journalists. Affected by these criminal acts, journalists in Nigeria have been campaigning to end impunity for crimes against them as one of the most pressing issues in guaranteeing freedom of expression and access to information for all citizens. As Nigeria joins the rest of the world to mark the 2021 International Day to End Impunity for Crimes Against Journalists, key players say this protection should cover all media practitioners,
including community media workers and citizen journalists, and others who may be using new media as a means of reaching their audiences. This is the stand of UNESCO.
The federal government of Nigeria has taken steps in advancing the rule of law, application of human rights, enhancing the freedom of information, and by implication, freedom of the press, as well as administration of criminal justice.
President Muhammadu Buhari's media manager, Femi Adesina, said journalists are never targets of witch hunts.
Because the president is not interested in the handling of any journalist. Whatever will be done to protect journalists, he will subscribe to it.
Nigerian press remains one of the most vibrant in the continent. The adoption of Freedom of Information Act has generated many hopes, and we continue to encourage its effective implementation.
The dialogue was organized by the Federal Ministry of Justice in collaboration with Managing Conflicts in Nigeria program. It is hoped that after the policy dialogue, the rights of journalists will be better protected in Nigeria to enable them effectively carry out their duties. Adebola, Brookslyn Sunday, NTA News.
Still on matters affecting media practitioners, journalists are under the obligation to give the citizens the platform to exercise their rights to free speech, which is a fundamental right. In the course of doing this, they are faced with different obstacles. Clement Barikui in this report highlights some of these challenges and why it has been difficult to end impunity for crimes against journalists.
When the citizens are not adequately informed, that will leave some lacuna in the system, because they won't know their right, they won't know their obligation, they won't know what is happening around them, government policies, how government are implementing these policies. So they are alienated from government.
Information is power. An informed citizen is a technocrat. Even the Holy Bible acknowledged the power of information when it stated that people perished for lack of knowledge. Journalists have consistently performed their critical role of information dissemination and agenda setting in a bid to save the people from perishing. But there are some people who feel threatened by these functions of the journalist, thereby instigating impunity for crimes against members of the fourth estate of the realm.
I've been a victim. I suffered once. I was beaten to the pulp.
Actually, I've had a bitter experience. To me, it was really very, very disheartening.
Several attempts have been made to end this impunity, yet journalists continue to face torture, incarceration, kidnap, harassment, and even killing. The Freedom of Information Act is meant to assist journalists do their work well and, in a way, shield them from some form of harassment in the course of information gathering. But the level of compliance to the act is still far from expectations in Akwa Ibom State.
The concept of the right to know is just existing as a principle, but not in reality in Akwa Ibom State.
When you try to hide pieces of information from journalists, we will always have a way of going to get those pieces of information, and it could be injurious.
The 2021 International Day to End Impunity for Crimes Against Journalists highlight the instrumental role of prosecutorial services in investigating and prosecuting not only killings, but also threats of violence against journalists. In Uyo, Clement Barikui, NTA News.
You are watching news reaching you from the studios of Nta Calabar. You can watch this newscast on our YouTube channel at YouTube/Nta Calabar. Let's go take a break. More reports when we return. Good to have you back. And now to the rest of the news. 209 new cases of COVID-19 has been confirmed as at 3rd November 2021. The statistics show that Gombe recorded the highest number of 109 cases, followed by Federal Capital Territory and Rivers with 21 cases each, Lagos 13, while Bauchi, Ondo and Plateau has 9 cases each. Other states affected are Enugu 7, Benue 5, Oyo 4, while Ekiti and Ondo recorded 1 case each. Till date, the total confirmed cases of the virus stands at 212,359 cases, with 201,010 persons treated and discharged, while 2,900 persons could not survive the virus. To ensure a healthy living devoid of prevailing disease, medical experts have emphasized the need for people to avail themselves of regular cancer screening and medical checkup. Emedion Umor reports that this formed part of the Enlightenment campaign by medical experts on cancer detection in Uyo, Akwa Ibom State.
The carnival floats, which had women wearing pink polo tops, aimed at educating individuals in the society of the deadly disease cancer. According to research, breast cancer is the most common in women that has led to increased death mortality, as over 2.26 million new cases have been detected in 2020 and over 685,000 deaths worldwide.
I hate to see a woman die in the process of this sickness. Please, we are handling so many cases. Even children are not spared. Anything you see on your body, don't try to do it by yourself. If you try it first, then second, then third, then doesn't work, please go to hospital. So our children are not spared either. Cancer does not respect gender, does not respect age.
Medical experts reeled out the common symptoms of breast cancer and enlightened women on the need to avail themselves for cancer screening.
Being a woman first, being a female sex, though men have breast cancer, but it is commoner in the women. Another risk factor is women that do not breastfeed at all, and women that have increasing age, they are predisposed to breast cancer. Family history of breast cancer, like your mother, your sister, your aunt has had breast cancer, so you have a higher chance of having breast cancer.
We have talked about how they can get screened for cervical cancer. That any woman that has issue on her body, on her breast, and on her cervix should come to Medical Women Association.
A minute silence was observed in honor of those who died of cancer. High point of the event, women were taught on how to carry out self-examination for breast cancer. In Uyo, Emedion Umor, NTA News.
Residents in Calabar Metropolis have condemned the indiscriminate dumping of refuse and other household waste on some major streets and drainages in the metropolis. Residents who say these unhygienic attitude could constitute health hazard called on government to clamp down on defaulters to checkmate the development. Nkoyo Etam filed the report.
Despite efforts to sustain the clean and green status of Cross River State, unhygienic acts by some residents has continued to pose a threat to these strikes. This unhealthy habit comes in the form of indiscriminate dumping of refuse on streets and drains, which has led to the blockage of some drainage systems.
Been here for the past 2-3 months, and nothing has been. I mean, I've not seen any effects of the government to evacuate all this refuse here. I mean, it becomes a problem to the people of the environment. It has polluted the entire environment. It becomes a very big problem for us here that lives in this our neighborhood here.
Some residents who spoke with NTA News called on the state government to find a lasting solution to the problem in order to avert health hazards that may emanate from the developments.
About the refuse, they just came one morning like that, they packed the refuse, then the next morning they just stopped packing the refuse. People just throw the refuse on the floor. So we just asked them if they should push it inside, because the refuse every morning is coming forward instead of going back. Every morning is coming forward. So we decided to carry tires to block so that the refuse will not disturb us from selling markets.
Others appeal for prompt evacuation of refuse by concerned authority to maintain the clean and green status, since Cross River State prides itself as a tourist destination. In Calabar, Nkoyo Etam, NTA News.
Accidents are often said to be caused, and its attendant consequences could be grievous, sending many to early graves. Applying caution in every undertaking can be key, especially in the midst of a dearth of facilities, just as Nkoyo Etam reports that a man had a close encounter with death in Calabar South local government area.
In spite of road safety awareness program by public organizations to the motoring public on the need to apply caution while on the roads, deplorable states of some roads still possess a challenge. A close shave with death is the story of a man whose grey color 406 Peugeot car ran into a gully. It appears the driver was on top speed and could not have control of the situation. Eyewitness accounts say the driver came out alive through a big erosion hole which served as a link to the gutter in the area.
It was just because of the way the government have failed to put these things in order. That is it. It's a normal route that everybody pass, but unfortunate for this driver, he missed his way and entered here.
There was an accident, so the thing fell to this side. And then they are supposed to do something about this place. They are supposed to reconstruct this place. Because all the water that comes, the water that piles here, when it rains, it's very bad. It enters people's houses, and it's not good.
Yeah, it was on speed. It's like there was a new in this place. Because other people that are driving, they will, as when they come, they will slow before they pass. So that was the issue.
Some residents of the area lament the deplorable condition of the road due to erosion and the lack of good drainage systems, while appealing to the government to come to their aid.
The driver came out successfully, but thank God that because of the hole inside, he was able to escape. But if not that, it wouldn't have been easy for him.
That thing was deeper than this one. And this church happened to volunteer to work on it. But the state government have to bring tax for that. They don't have any right to work on government roads. And this thing had been here, it's not starting today. This thing you see here is, imagine the dips. It's not something that happened immediately. This had been there and people have been calling several times, even on radio, people have been complaining.
My message to the government is to come and assist this area and to avert the public of fatal accident as we are seeing here. They should come and do thorough construction, not repair again, thorough construction, so that this occurrence will not come up again in future.
As the winds dawn, activities heighten and observers call for more caution and the need to shun overspeeding. In Calabar, Nkoyo Etam, NTA News.
And that is the size of our package for tonight. But before we go, let's take a quick look at some of the stories that made the headlines. The Cross River State government has called on Labour to sit their sword as Governor Ayade promised to address issues of concern. Stakeholders in Anambra governorship election have inspected INEC sensitive materials for Saturday's 6th election. We also told you that residents in Calabar have lamented indiscriminate dumping of refuse on streets in the metropolis. Thank you so much for staying with us. To have a good evening.